We are April and Scott, creators of naughtygym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. We are back. Welcome to the Naughty Gym Show. I am your host, April, and this is my co-host,
Scott. Thanks for the host, co-host.
I do that wrong every time.
Continually running with that. I like it.
It's just a habit now. We are excited to talk about this topic today. We've actually had it on our list of to-dos for quite some time now, and we're just confronted with it recently. So today we're talking about when to say no, how to say no, and how to receive a no. But before we go into that, I want to remind our listeners about naughtygym.com. We are a health and fitness sex positive platform, and we offer daily programmed workouts, 6 days a week. We offer mobility, strength focused programming, booty building accessory programs, nutrition coaching, but we're also a non-monogamous platform where you can go and ask questions, and we're a resource for anybody who's in non-monogamy or sex positive. We just started our women's track and our men's track. So there's a chat for women, a chat for men, and you and I go live weekly. Yep. Inside the platform to answer questions, do Q&As, just to hang out with everybody. And then starting in July, Coach Cara and myself are going to be doing a monthly live ladies night. And you and Coach Matt are going to be doing a live men's night. So this is just to answer some questions for women in non-monogamy. And you guys will be?
Probably drinking beer and not anything productive.
Which is weird because you don't drink beer. Right. So just for that, you're going to start. I think that's great. That's how much he loves our members.
I will drink beer for my members. That's right.
No, but men need a resource too. Men need a place to go where they can ask questions to help navigate their experience. We've found that when we did Mimosas with April and Shots with Scott, which is actually just a circle time to connect, that men felt that they were able to be vulnerable in that setting when they were asking you guys questions and just sharing their experiences in non-monogamy.
Yeah, sometimes guys like to be macho and tough and don't want to ask questions and think they know everything. And then when they see other guys opening up, it usually gives them license or the freedom to feel like they can open up, and all of a sudden we start having these incredible conversations. So we're going to try to mimic that and make it happen on the online community like we do at our live events.
Yeah. So if you want access to that, you go to naughtygym.com and click on a monthly membership. There's an annual membership, but it's just $19.95 a month. And our goal for our Naughty Gym platform is to give you so much value for the $19.95 that you don't even hesitate to pay it. It's not just about fitness. It's about community. It's about helping you navigate your journey in non-monogamy, your journey in the sex positive space. If you're just coming out as queer or whatever it is, we want to help you be a resource there. So we're continually adding programs and coaches and events, and our members get priority access to those events, and they get direct contact to us 24/7.
Which may not really be a selling point.
Yeah, that might not be.
But they do get it.
We'll refund your money if you don't like it. Just kidding. No refunds. I just dropped my lacrosse ball. If you're wondering what was underneath my butt, I was rolling out.
Often she has giant hard balls under her butt cheek when we're doing these podcast episodes.
This is actually a double ball. It's like two lacrosse balls joined together. But I usually am rolling out my piriformis, so sorry. for the distraction.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
That's what they're calling it.
Rolling out the piriformis.
Naughtygym.com. Join the community today.
And coming up, we have our second local, well, I guess arguably our fourth local event, but second paid local event. And we are really trying to pull out all the stops. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's how the old people say it.
Pull out all the stops, put in a lot of stops.
Okay.
Anyway, this event is called Mixology. It's our new updated version of our local meet and greet and party. And it's going to be a 2-day event, a weekend-long event where we have literally are having the nicest cocktail bar in town do a cocktail mixology class, like the name seems to suggest, where we get in there and learn how to make several different unique cocktails.
Craft cocktails.
Yeah, craft cocktails. And then immediately following that, we will go into our what used to be called Shots with Scots and Mimosas with April, where the guys go one way, the girls go another, and we have these really meaningful conversations about what to expect over the weekend, how to handle yourself, especially if you're newer, and people giving advice to other people, and these just incredible conversations.
That really helps foster connections and friendships, especially when you get the two genders separated, the men and the women. It really helps us drop our guard and connect, especially the women. Well, I can say that because I don't know if the men, but for us women, it's super important to have adult women friendships. It has been so vital in my adult life to have women who I can be completely authentic with and share things with, even if it's not going in a sexual space, just to have those people that can call you out on your shit, that can hold your feet to the fire when you need help, that accountability, to have that kind of sisterhood. And I think for the men, it's the same. You form kind of a brotherhood with these men. And I think that's super important.
And then the next day we will have a big lunch at this super cool giant restaurant / brewery, and they can host large groups. And so we're going to do that. Then we come back to the event center. We're going to do speed dating, and then there's going to be dinner. Everybody will be on their own for dinner. And then we'll have the big DJ dance party.
Yeah. So if you missed our soiree this past April, we had the big soiree. This is the soiree, but to the next level. We've just added a bunch of additional things to make the weekend more connection focused. And we've lowered the price. So we've learned some things that worked and some things that didn't work from the soiree. And we really are excited about this one. Scott was like, let's call it mixology, because mixology in the bartending realm is mixing drinks and crafting a really unique craft cocktail. Mixology in this sense is the art of crafting connections. And so that's what the whole weekend is focused around, is creating those connections. So if you're local or if you're not local, you can go to any of our social medias. We'll start sending stuff out in our email. So if you're not on our email list, you can go to our website and subscribe to our email list so you don't miss anything. But tickets are already on sale. It's $150 for a couple, $100 for a single, and you have access to everything that goes on that weekend, except for the actual mixology class is extra.
Yeah, they can only have so many people that can fit around the bar and they can do the class with. Mm-hmm. And so it's limited, but it's also an extra feeling. It's $50 per person, and you're
totally
going to get all those cocktails and all that class instruction, and it's just a really fun thing to do, especially for just $50. And you can go to our website too and find the link to the mixology weekend itself and click on, and it'll take you to the event, right? Ticket sales, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
All right, is that enough?
That is August 23rd through the 24th. Through the 24th, actually technically the 25th at 2 a.m. But August 23rd and 24th here in Huntsville, Alabama. But if you can't make it for the whole weekend, just come for the meet and greet, the casual meet and greet Friday night at the cocktail bar. Details will be in all of our info about that. And if you can only make it to one or the other, that is fine as well. So reach out to us if you have any questions.
All right, so we're going to talk about the big word no. We're going to talk about all phases of the questions that sometimes surround saying no, hearing no, all those kinds of things.
Right, yeah. And I really feel like, I think we talked maybe 2 episodes ago, how I have really become more comfortable saying no. In most situations, though, not in all situations, it still gets uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in this 10 years-ish, and it's still surprising how difficult it is sometimes to say no to a situation that we're not overly enthused about.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about those things today and see if we can't give some helpful advice, actionable tips that you can use as you're going into different lifestyle events that will help make the journey a little bit smoother. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about first when to say no. And I think some of this stuff is fairly obvious. Most of this information is probably not stuff you don't already know.
Right.
It's just the implementation is difficult.
Exactly.
But when to say no, and I think the guiding principle here is that you have to learn to listen to that inner voice, your instincts,
mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that we have struggled a little bit with early on. But your body is a great guide for warning signals and trying to keep you protected, whether that's physically or emotionally. But your body is a really good organism for helping serve as a guide. So the first thing that is the biggest no-no of all, the thing that you should always run screaming from, is if you're in a situation where in any way you feel unsafe.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, nobody wants to be in a situation where they're feeling unsafe. And this may be the easiest situation to say no to, because once we start feeling unsafe, we usually have our strongest convictions in that moment, and we can say no.
Well, it could be even a situation where you're not in inherent danger, right? Like it could be something, maybe you had some sexual trauma from your past, and that starts to come up in a situation where you are with very safe people. You can still feel that feeling of your safety being in danger. And that's okay to say no. You should say no if that's coming up, because it just means you may have some work to still do before you get to a place where you're able to share in that setting.
And it's important for both partners to help protect the safety of the other partner. Mm-hmm. But it's especially important, I think, for the person and we always use this type of terminology, the person that's out in the lead or out in front, mm-hmm. the one that's kind of the gas as opposed to the brakes in most situations. If you're that person, say you're the guy and you're like, hey, let's go. This couple is hot. I'm ready to go. And maybe you aren't feeling it the same way I'm feeling it. It is my role and job in that situation, not as a man, because the situation could be reversed, but as the one out in front, to make you feel safe with your emotions, to say, all right, look, you're not apparently where I'm at here.
Right.
And I'm going to back down to where you are. Mm-hmm. And that's also part of the safety issue as well.
Sure.
All right. Second one is if you are feeling too much pressure, or you're feeling pressured, right? You're in a situation where, honestly, if there were no other considerations, you'd probably back out of this, but you're getting pressure from what unlikely scenario is that person out in front.
Right. Yeah. If someone's trying to coerce you into something, and that could be your partner, and sometimes they'll do that without even realizing that's what they're doing. They're thinking they're trying to help you find your wings or help give you the confidence to do it, and try to boost your confidence. Like, take that first step. That can be coercion, and that doesn't feel good. I know for me, I immediately will dig my heels in, and it's an immediate no if I feel that type of pressure. It's just taken this past year where I have been comfortable saying, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't that long ago that we both finally really understood that when I thought I was trying to give you encouragement, I was saying, hey, mm-hmm. feel free to go flirt with her, him, them, whoever. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. That instead of receiving that as encouragement, it came off feeling like pressure.
Right. And
then that's when you would and that was the surefire way for me to kill the whole vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that undue pressure is, if you're feeling that, pull your partner aside. This is our recommendation. Get them away from the situation, maybe the other couple or other person mm-hmm. or whatever it is, and say, look, hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute. If you will, follow me to the bar.
Yeah.
Just get out of there in some way. That's not hard to do. And then say, look, I'm feeling a lot of pressure, and I don't I don't feel good about it. I don't like it. Don't blame. Mm-hmm. Don't say, look, you're making me feel a lot of pressure. And I mean, that's probably what's happening. But just say, I'm feeling a lot of pressure, and that's not a sexy place for me to be.
Right. And then the partner should say, absolutely, let's get out of this situation. Let's get you to a safe space.
Don't do what I tend to do and be defensive. Because as soon as she
it's hard. It
is hard. But you got to, I have to avoid that, because a lot of times when I hear you saying, and this doesn't really happen for us anymore, but I would hear you say things, look, I'm feeling a lot of pressure from you. You know, I'm not sure that I'm there yet. This just feels like, and then I would get defensive saying, I'm not trying to pressure you.
Right.
And then I would go on a list of reasons why I wasn't trying to pressure you. All the while, everything I was saying felt like pressure.
Right. Yeah.
Perfectly acceptable to say no there. And you better damn well be ready to hear them telling you no, and give them what they need in that moment.
That's the most loving thing you could possibly do to your partner in that situation.
Yep. If you are uncomfortable, this is
in any way.
Yeah, and this is kind of vague. Yeah. I mean, to say that, because in some sense, you know, these situations almost are inherently a little bit uncomfortable unless you're just so experienced that it's just a boring Monday for you to sleep with another couple or another person. But there's always some degree of uncomfortability, I think, in most of these situations. But there's this uncomfortability that isn't enjoyable. There's uncomfortability that you can sense is an opportunity for growth and fun.
Right. Sometimes you have to step out of that comfort zone, right, to grow. But you're right. There's a distasteful uncomfortability that is kind of like that intuition that's going, something's just not right. This is making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. And I say that all the time.
Yeah, right.
That's my go-to. When I can't put into words what I'm feeling, I'll just say, I'm feeling super uncomfortable. I don't know what it is. I can't put it into words right now, but I need to stop.
Yeah. And that's, again, this is the partner out in front's time to shine at that moment and say, well, look, I don't know what it is either, but hey, I'm your partner, I'm your teammate, and let's back out of this situation and take some time to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you're experiencing high anxiety, that's just a bad place. Nobody feels sexy when they're experiencing anxiety. And there's symptoms of that your partner can recognize. You know, are you shallow breathing? Do you look like you're anxious? You know me well enough to know when I look anxious. So that would be a great time for the partner to step in and go, hey, you okay? Let's take a beat.
Yeah. Like if you're packing your suitcase while at the same time chewing me out about something.
Have I done that?
Well, not chewing me out. You give April's most toxic trait about going to a lifestyle event is the few days right before we leave.
I get very anxious.
And she gets incredibly anxious.
I don't think I chew you out, though.
No. I was making it up. Oh. But you just get
vacuum a lot when I'm anxious.
Right. If you're furiously vacuuming while you're packing your suitcase.
I don't know about anybody else, but vacuuming is the most stress relieving activity I've ever done in my life. I absolutely love vacuuming. And we have mostly wood floors. So I've got like a little Dirt Devil vacuum. And I will vacuum the entire house multiple times. It's just like a mindless task. And the noise helps me it's like meditative. I can like zone out, clear my brain, and then the house is clean too. So it's really a win-win.
Yeah, typically right before we go on a lifestyle vacation, the house gets vacuumed quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So that high anxiety is, again, your body's telling you something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to mean no. This is a situation I want out of. I don't ever want to talk about it again. This is over. It could mean let's step out of the dance party and go for a walk around the property, or let's head back to our room for a few minutes and just get in the air conditioner and you put your arms around me and let me lay on your chest.
Yeah, self-regulate a little bit.
Because once you can kind of get the nervous system calm back down, in all likelihood, it's still a big no.
Yeah.
But at least it's a no from a good place where you're in you're thinking clearly and you're not
all your faculties about you.
Yeah, you're not surrounded by people and And whatever the things that are causing the issues, you can get alone and get to your safe place and your person and then make better decisions.
Yeah. And then I added this one to your notes without you knowing, when you just don't want to. That's when you should say no.
It's funny that you put that in the notes because I was reading it going, I don't know what I meant by this one.
When you don't want to. You don't have to be anxious, feel unsafe, feel pressured, or have anxiety. You could just not want to have sex with these people. And that's an okay place to say no.
That's true. I didn't even put that on there. And that's probably the most frequent one. Like, well, I'm just not interested.
Right. I just don't want to. I don't know why. I just don't. That's okay.
And we're going to get to how you handle that situation because that's one of the hardest ones.
It is.
Somebody's making an obvious pitch or play to you like, hey, we really interested.
Well, we've met some very lovely people who we enjoy hanging out with. We don't want to have sex with them. There's just no chemistry sexually.
And that's everybody.
No, not everybody that we come into contact with.
No.
Like what?
Well, that didn't work that right. Everybody has people that they are not interested in sexually,
but they may be super good friends with.
Yeah.
They just, for some reason, the chemistry isn't there. And we've met people like that where we're like, we really wish we were sexually attracted to them because they're fantastic people. We just aren't.
Yeah. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. That's happened to us with people that we, from a look standpoint, you would think we would be attracted to.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it just doesn't click. It doesn't vibe. There's something about the way we are and the way they are that we're just not feeling.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. So those are the times you should say no. All right. And I think in general, everybody knows that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't any novel information we presented right there, probably.
We could probably do a TED Talk on this. I think it's pretty novel.
And we had some of these issues and probably still do to some extent.
Sure.
But we took that, we've talked about this on other podcast episodes. We have had one major fight, I guess it was major, in our entire relationship. Mm-hmm. Lifestyle related or otherwise. We've only ever had really one fight.
I mean, nobody was sleeping on the couch, but.
Right. And because of it, we had trouble being able to see that situation through each other's eyes.
Right. Yeah.
And we felt like because we weren't sure what each other wanted now, because it brought up a lot of things, a lot of insecurity, we decided to we didn't decide. You said, I think we need to take a break. I said, I will support that decision. And so we took a break for, 6 months, depending on how we.
6 months, a year.
Yeah, it depends on how we define it because there was actually some play with our best friends in there. But anyway, we came out the other side of that with a principle. And again, this is something everybody's heard of.
It's not proprietary.
It's not proprietary, but it's something that is now our guiding principle. And we have used it multiple times since that break, where in a situation, if it's not a hell yeah for both of us, then it is a hell no.
Yeah.
Because we have done that in many situations. We're like, I don't know. I kind of might be interested in them. I don't know. Let's try and see what happens. We've done that a lot. We do not do that anymore.
Right.
If there's any second guessing, we just politely bail out. And then another way of looking at it, a tool that we've used before, we'll give an example of that.
And I love this one.
Is what we call the finger snap principle.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this on podcast episodes before, that we have experimented once with separate dating and probably plan on doing it again. We just haven't gotten around to it. But prior to the actual separate dates that we did, we had one other separate date set up each. You had a separate date plan.
Oh, right.
I had a separate date plan.
Yeah, I'll talk about this one.
Okay.
So I had my separate date lined up, and I even went and had like a pre-date, right? So if you haven't heard the story, go back and listen to our separate dating series. I think there's 3 of them, where I talk about, I went and met him for coffee for like 30 minutes. I saw a few red flags, but I was still ignoring those at that time in my life. And,
well, we were new to the
filing them. Well, and I had brought them to you, and you were encouraging me to ignore them and just push forward.
That's not what I was doing exactly.
Well, you were pressuring me, but you weren't intentionally like pushing. You thought that I was holding back, right?
Yeah. Well, let me interrupt here and say, because this is how these kinds of things happen sometimes. What it looked like to me is as the date drew closer, you were getting more and more nervous and looking for excuses to back out of it.
Right.
That's not what was happening, but it's what it kind of looked like to me.
And so you were going, just go, that's not really a big deal. Well, more red flags kept popping up. And so the night before our separate date, I couldn't sleep. And it was like, I don't know, 4 a.m. I think you were already up getting ready to go coach or something. And you came out of the bathroom and I was in bed just wide awake. And
when you wouldn't have normally been
right.
awake.
And you were like, why are you up? And I said, I just can't sleep. I'm like super anxious. And I don't know if I want to go on this date, but I really want you to go on your date. And you said to me, and I thought this was perfect, if you could snap your fingers right now and have this any way you wanted, not go on a date, go on a date, what would you do?
And then I said, if you could snap your fingers and this date be not happen, this guy doesn't get his feelings hurt, it just never was a thing, would you snap your fingers and end it? And you were like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would end it. Yeah, immediately.
And which meant that you were now at a point where you were only going out on this date because you'd kind of already agreed to it, didn't want to hurt his feelings. All the reasons that you shouldn't do something.
Right.
Was the only reasons you were now doing them.
Yeah.
And when you said yes to that, I said, well, then let's cancel it. And I'm canceling mine. You said, nope, still go on yours. I want you to go. I don't want that to happen. And I refused because that was part of our agreement at that time. That was a great lesson for us. It wasn't something that we had pre-planned. It was just in the moment. I wanted to know, well, wait a minute. Are these reasons that are just anxiety and nervousness, cold feet types of things, or do you really want out of this? And it was obvious you wanted out of it. And so we moved on. So that's our finger snap principle that we use. Sometimes we will come back to that and say, all right, if you could snap your fingers, would we be doing this?
Right.
So, all right. So those are two principles that if it's not a hell yeah, it's a hell no. And the finger snap principle that sometimes can help give you a guiding framework for making some of these tough decisions.
Right.
There's probably others, and they're probably all better than those two because we use those. But, that's something.
Yeah, if you have some other ideas of when to say no, shoot us an email at info@naughtygym.com. We would love to hear yours.
Or comment on something like if you're watching this on YouTube, but drop a comment in there.
Or when you leave your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, we're still begging for people to do that.
All right. Now a word from our sponsors.
And since we don't actually have sponsors, this word is from us.
We have 2 rooms left for El Salvador. Just 2. That's May 7th through the 12th of 2025. You can make the payment in 3 payments. It is going to be an absolutely spectacular lifestyle trip. It's a holistic approach to the lifestyle, health and wellness and connection focused, with great parties still, volcano hikes, waterfall hikes, Mayan blessing. It's just going to be an amazing experience. That is in May of 2025. Also, Be Better at Being Bad in Jamaica, the second coming. It's our second year doing this full resort takeover. We're already over halfway booked. We've got our presenters lined up. We've added a new one to the roster this year, Martin McDonald, who is a clinical nutritionist, clinical performance nutritionist from the UK. He's super sexy as well.
Yeah, April has the big time hots for
yeah.
He's going to love hearing that.
But we've got our oldies returning. We've got Dragonfly NE, Luna Matata, Ashley Manta, the Canisexual, Cara Turnquist, and her beautiful husband, Matt, will be there. Why do I say Quist?
I don't know.
Turnkissed.
I don't think they pronounce their own name right. Matt and Cara.
We have all of our amazing speakers. We've got Catherine and Miche from Expansive Connection. Our workshops, we've been building the itinerary, and it is already shaping up to be such an amazing event. So excited. But you go to hedonism.com to reserve your spot. It's January 4th through the 11th, 2025. And in September, we will launch our app where everybody can start getting to know each other. We'll do some virtual meet and greets. We've got some really cool swag this year that everybody's going to get. This is just going to be bigger and better than it was last year.
If you've never been to Hedonism, I promise you it's the week to go. We're not a group. We're going to have the whole resort. And Last year, over half of the attendees had never been to Hito before, so there were tons of new people there, and there's just all kinds of support mechanisms in place to make this the great first step into seeing if the lifestyle is something you're interested in.
All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
That's my sound effect. I don't know why it sounds like a whip.
I like it.
All right, so next part we're going to
have to find some sponsors.
This is part we think is the hardest for everybody. It's just how to say no. Like literally, what are the words that you use? What things do you do because we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, it's
right?
so hard.
And if you're new to the lifestyle, you'll probably think like we did. Well, look, I'm going to tell you, I'm never having sex with anybody I don't want to. All right, but talk to some people that have been in this for a long time, and it's not as easy as you would think. And we've all stepped into situations before that in hindsight, we wish we hadn't have been in, and we had all the clues and reasons leading up to it to know we should say no.
Yeah.
So how do you go about using your words and saying no? The first thing we want to say is the hardest thing. Yeah. That's being direct.
Yeah.
All right. Or at least it's the hardest thing for some of us to do is be direct and not sound like jerks or assholes by being direct.
Well, you always want to handle your no with kindness and care, right? Knowing that this is potentially going to hurt somebody's feelings. Maybe it won't, but it could potentially hurt somebody's feelings. So you don't want to be a jackass about it. I mean, you want to handle it kindly.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about 2 phrases that we actually use, literally the words that we say. But as a guiding principle for what to say, one way of looking at this is to think, what would I like a couple to say to me if I proposed play and they weren't interested?
Yeah. I do want to go on the record with saying Scott has said he has never been told no in a lifestyle situation, but also because, and I'll tell you part of his scheming, because he has never asked unless he was 100% positive the answer was going to be yes.
Yeah, which is kind of cowardly probably, but.
So he doesn't put himself out there.
Oh, I do.
Unless the answer is going to be yes.
Well, yeah, I like to flirt. I like to have conversations and be flirty and all that kind of stuff. And generally, especially the longer we do this, you can tell by the feedback that you get from your flirting, especially as you sort of start to escalate the flirting a bit. If I'm getting overwhelmingly positive return on my investment from that flirting, you usually get a sense that like, if I were to propose it now, it's a definite yes.
Yeah.
So but that's part of the enjoyment for me is
right.
I don't like the, hi, I'm Scott. You guys seem cool. Would y'all like to meet us in the playroom tonight? That's too quick for me, even if the person were to say yes. I just don't enjoy it. I like to get to know somebody and spend a lot of time.
Well, even with our friends, you don't like them going, hey, we're going to see you guys Monday. Do you want to have sex that night?
Yeah. With people that we are wildly attracted to, we still don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for throwing me on the bus.
Sorry.
All right. So being direct is the best path forward, we think, with the least future problems in it.
Sure.
But it's hard to say no. And we're going to tell you some of the ways that we handle this in a minute. We're going to actually talk about.
Well, being direct is going to eliminate confusion, right? So we've done some indirect things where we'll say, we're not really in the mood today, which then doesn't say no, that just delays it. So then they're going to come back and be like, well, how are you feeling today? And it's like, well, today, I have my period. Right. I don't know.
And that's not fair to the other people because 100%. They could be, they may hear that as, they might still be interested. It's just not today. They're not feeling well or something. And so then they're going to spend more time pursuing that, where that time might be better invested if that's what they're wanting is to have have some playtime with somebody else. They could invest that other places. So you're not being fair to them when you're not being clear in your messaging. Right. So trying to be direct is respectful of your time and their time. And like you said, it just eliminates confusion. All right. Indirect no's often feel easier to say.
Right.
because they might feel like they're less hurtful or, won't hurt somebody's feelings as easily, but they're potentially problematic because they can be confusing.
Right. And they're typically little lies too. Right?
They can be, yeah. Like what?
It's like lying to get out of your homework or, whatever, like, sorry, I have my period, or I'm pregnant. I don't know.
Yeah, some guys are into that, though.
That's true.
That might not work at all.
Yeah. I'm feeling under the weather, or I have a sore throat, or, whatever. Any of those little where you're just kind of dodging.
Yeah. Or like you said, we're not really planning on playing today, can come back to haunt you tomorrow.
Yeah. Scott has gonorrhea. He's on antibiotics. Any of that.
Yeah. Now they're going to tell the people we do play with that you just played with gonorrhea guy. By the way, I do not have gonorrhea. Let's be very direct about that. I have no STDs whatsoever. I should repeat that.
We are tested regularly through shamelesscare.com.
Yeah. That is kind of a sponsor.
Yeah, Naughty Gym. You can use Naughty Gym as a promo code and get $30 off your ED meds or your STI testing.
They'll certify you as completely free of disease, or not if you're infected. Okay. All right. So the indirect can feel easier, but it is often we don't recommend it, although we've been guilty of it.
Yeah, we have. But we recently had a conversation about that because when we have been indirect about it, we always leave feeling bad. Like, I wish we would have just been direct with them and said no for whatever reason.
And it's not that indirect doesn't ever work. Sometimes it probably does. But it's a mistake because we do it because we feel like it's kinder,
right,
or more kind. And in reality, a lot of times people hear it as instead of when you're giving these indirect excuses, instead of hearing no, they're hearing maybe.
Right.
And so it's not fair to them because, like you say, you're essentially in some sense lying to them.
Right.
And it's just better to be direct. Right. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to give some examples of what we think is a great direct response to somebody that is communicated clearly and hopefully minimizes any hurt feelings. It never feels good to be told no. You're never going to tell anybody no and they go, oh my God, thank goodness.
Right.
They didn't, if they wanted to hear no, they wouldn't have asked you to play. So it's going to hurt feelings. But so I'm going to tell you the one that I have used, and this is my favorite one. And by the way, I don't think you should memorize what I say or what April says, because that may not feel authentic to you and your voice. But maybe you can use this as a way to construct your own sort of go-to phrase. And I think it's helpful to have this. I have this phrase in my pocket that I pull out whenever I need to use it. And that's helpful because it gives you comfort going into these situations that if you're putting in a position where you need to say no, I know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Right. It's a phrase that works for essentially any situation.
Sure.
I go with, I don't think we are feeling that kind of connection, but thank you. All right. Does that sting a little? Probably. But it's clear, especially when you're saying, I don't think we feel that kind of connection, but thank you. That thank you is sort of the putting the exclamation point on that sentence.
Right.
It's like, I appreciate it, but that's the end of this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because I've never used that phrase and had somebody continue to press on.
Right. Right.
So it's a clear statement.
Right. I say, Scott says I can't. Just kidding.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
I didn't even know you were telling people that. That explains some things.
It's kind of like when I was a kid, my mom would say, if your friends pressure you to do something, tell them your mom said you can't use me as a scapegoat.
Don't do that. Never do that, by the way. Do not throw your partner on the
Yeah, no, I don't say that. I say I really value our friendship. I just don't feel a sexual chemistry.
Yeah. And that's a great, not only is that direct, but one of the reasons that line is so good is because it leaves open, it tells those people that we still want to have a friendship.
Right.
It's just not a sexual connection for us. Now, they may be so hurt that they no longer want to be our friends.
I don't think, well, yeah, I mean, and that then just goes back to editing your life. They will edit themselves out
Right.
if those are the kind of people they are. But I think that the friends that we surround ourselves with, it may sting for a minute, but they value our friendship above the sexual part.
And we have, if you're in the lifestyle long enough and go to enough events, it's going to happen to everybody that you're going to meet and enjoy the company of lots of people that you don't also want to have sex with.
Right.
It's not unusual. It happens all the time. Everybody is that way. So most people understand that. And again, it always hurts to hear no, but people are not going to be overly angry at you in these situations. But you have to have that phrase memorized that you can pull it out in a moment's notice. And it's almost like a reflex so that you don't end up bending to the temptation of making an indirect excuse or statement.
Right. And then don't act weird around those people. Like if you truly value that friendship, continue being their friend. Don't start avoiding them now. Handle it with kindness. Understand that they may have their feelings hurt for a little bit. They'll get over it if they want to continue to be your friend. But don't be weird. Don't make things weird.
So if you're listening to this right now, maybe this is a good time to push pause, especially if you're listening to it with your partner. Push pause, discuss this, and come up with your 2 lines.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? What is she going to say? And it needs to be a line, again, that works in pretty much any situation.
You can say, April says I can't.
Scott told me
Use
I can.
me as your lifestyle mama. I'll be your scapegoat.
All right. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is how to hear or how to receive a no.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is incredibly important, we think, for your long-term success in consensual non-monogamy, because unless you're a chicken shit like me and only ask when you know the deal is closed, you're going to hear no. All right. So how do you hear a no and take it in with grace?
Right. You're asking
Oh,
me?
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to say don't take it personal, because it is personally, they are not sexually attracted to you or whatever the reason is, right? It's a no.
It's about as personal a thing as you can possibly hear.
Yeah. Receiving something like that with grace and kindness, that's the only way to do it if you want to be successful in the lifestyle. If you get your panties all twisted and you get your feathers all ruffled and you get angry, and now you're going to avoid those people, because we've heard stories of people who had met another couple in the lifestyle, became great friends, and then one couple said, we want to pursue this sexually, and the other couple said no, and the other couple never talked to them again.
Yeah.
Like just wrote them off. They'll avoid them at parties. In fact, we were at a party recently where there was 2 couples there, and one couple said that couple no longer talks to us because we wouldn't have sex with them. That to me is the shallowest thing you can do, receiving a no and then cutting somebody off because they were respecting themselves. You need to honor somebody else's no. That will, because you'll be in that situation someday too. So
react in that situation the way you hope somebody reacts when you tell them no.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want them getting all pissy with you and acting like babies. It's a very immature reaction. It's one thing to be hurt. Mm-hmm. Maybe getting really hurt, maybe too much. That may be something you could work on. But having your feelings hurt a little bit because somebody told you no is natural.
Sure.
Being offended is a much different thing.
And that's a choice.
Yeah.
You can choose to be offended and, deal with that however you do. Or you can choose, like I said, to honor their no, be super kind and respectful. I mean, the best thing you can do is go, thank you so much for honoring yourself. I really appreciate that you're being honest with me.
And direct.
And I would still really love to be, we would still really love to be friends with you. Yeah. And move past it.
Even if you don't necessarily mean those words at first, you probably will the next day once you've had time to think about it.
If you're not an asshole.
And that's the difference between having your feelings hurt and being offended. Offended carries with it this idea almost that you think you were owed something in that situation.
Yeah.
And I've just got news for you. Under no circumstances that you can create in your mind are you ever owed sex or ever within your right to be mad that somebody told you no.
Oh, we've heard stories about, like a guy takes a girl on a date, or another couple goes on a date with a couple, and they've invested all of this time trying to woo this other couple only to be told no. And then they're offended because, well, they wasted money on dinner and they drove 2 hours and all of this stuff. And it's like, that doesn't mean they owe you sex. Are you out of your fucking mind?
That's right. Well, I mean, like
it's just the sense of, but we've heard so many stories like that where people got mad at.
Oh, we were having this great conversation over text message, and they lived in the city an hour away from us, and everything was clicking, and everybody was jiving, and we thought this is going to be great, and tonight is going to be so much fun. Yeah. We drive there, and then you get face to face, and things are different for whatever reason.
Right.
Maybe somebody didn't look like what their pictures were, or in person the vibe was different than in text messages. It happens all the time, and everybody has the right to pull the plug at that point, and nobody has the right to be mad that somebody else pulled the plug.
Right, that somebody else was honoring themselves.
Yeah, even if they've been I'll go so far as to say that we're using the specific situation of like a couple's date, like a blind date almost. You get there, you have great conversation with them, you've driven 2 hours, and there's flirting. You flirt, and they seem to be flirting back. You still are not owed sex.
Right.
And they still have every right to say, we're just not feeling that connection. I know we've been flirting, but it just doesn't feel right for us.
Right.
That is okay. And you should be happy that they had the courage. I'm not telling you should be happy to hear a no. I'm just saying you should be happy they had the courage to say what they really felt, because the last thing you want to do is end up in the bedroom playing with somebody that really doesn't want to be there.
Right. Doing it out of sense of they feel like they have to. Or if you have played with that couple before and now they don't want to play with you again.
That happens.
People
change.
They don't owe it to you because they had sex with you one time. That doesn't mean that it's an open door every single time that you're together. That sense of entitlement is so baffling to me, but we've not experienced that, but we have heard stories from people who have experienced
somebody being mad at us.
Right.
That we know of.
Well, yeah, maybe maybe they don't talk to us anymore. I don't know. It hasn't affected our lives one way or another.
Yeah.
Because we are not easily offended. I would love for somebody to tell Scott no.
Oh my God. Now somebody's going to tell me no just because you said that. Which is just unfathomable that anybody would tell me no. Okay. All right. So one of the things that happens a lot is people aren't always direct.
Mm-hmm.
You can be vague, and you're trying to say no without saying no. Right. Maybe you are an expert at this and you always are clear, kind, and direct with your no, but that doesn't mean everybody else is going to be. Mm-hmm. Sometimes maybe you're the one that's suggesting play and you're not getting a direct yes or no from them. They're saying things and maybe you're not sure how they feel. My suggestion is, I'll be curious to hear what you think about this because we didn't talk about this. My suggestion is, if you're not getting a direct yes or no, that is a direct no.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? So if they're not, I know there's going to be exceptions to this, all right? In general, from our experience, if somebody, say, proposes play to us, I do not respond with, I don't know, maybe, let me think. I'm giving a direct, enthusiastic, absolutely, can't wait, you guys are awesome.
Right. Or if somebody says, I don't know. Let me talk to my partner. That is probably them not wanting to be direct. I've done that before.
Yeah.
I've been like, I don't know. Let me talk to Scott and see what he says. Because then I'm going, I hope he says no.
Right. Now, in general, though, we tend to talk to each other before we given
Right.
agreement.
But if I was really into it, I would have been like, yes, this is something that I want to do. I'm going to talk to Scott and see if he's on board too.
Yeah, but there's a problem with that too.
Because if you're not going to throw you under the bus, maybe I should rethink how I handle that.
So, yeah, again, these clear communications are always optimal because the problems tend to arise in these unclear moments. But I would suggest that if you aren't getting a direct, enthusiastic yes to your proposals for play, even if they're using words that seem to suggest they might be open, they're not sure, that's probably a no, and they're probably just trying to be nice to you.
Also, I will say this, and this may just be a personal preference. I prefer when the couple comes to us, both of us at the same time, and says, we would like to play, or we will go to the couple together. What I despise more than anything, and this has happened several times, is when the man comes to me and says, we would like to play with you guys, because immediately it's a no from me. Internally, I start going, oh, this is a lot of pressure. I don't like this. Why are you talking to me? Where's my husband? And I'm looking for my safe space. Even if I want to play, I get that, like, I get super anxious because that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Don't come to me when I'm by myself.
Yeah, as a general rule, and again, there's exceptions to this. We've had it happen in all sorts of different ways, and we've said yes to different ways than what we're about to suggest. But as a general rule of thumb, I think no play should ever be proposed unless it's done in front of everybody that would be involved.
The decision making was right. Everyone is present.
Because you just highlighted, is if some couple proposed it to you, or the guy proposed to you, maybe it's a guy you're really interested in. You're like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to do it. Let me go talk to Scott. And then you come and find out, well, I have no interest in it.
Right.
And maybe I would say, well, hey, go have fun. Just you.
Yeah, or maybe now we have to have a tough conversation.
Yeah, now and it's obvious when we go back to that couple and say, we've talked about it, we don't think so. They're going to go, well, it must have been him because she seems so enthusiastically wanting to do it. So it's always best, in our opinion, to propose play with all the decision makers. It can feel easier now, because of guys especially. I've had guys numerous times. This has actually happened where the guy comes to me, man on man, one-on-one, and says, hey, man, I just want to talk to you. We've been talking. I don't know how you guys feel, but we're interested if y'all are interested. And I'm not completely put off by that, but I still don't think that's optimal.
Right.
Because it puts me in the situation of, what I will do in those situations, say, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to talk, I don't know how we're feeling.
Right.
I'm going to have to talk to April and see. But even that's sort of awkward because what I'm saying.
Yeah, because then I have questions. I'm like, well, what did he say? What, it's easier if everyone's present who's going to be participating.
How big's his dick? You don't know that.
I don't know.
So yeah, as a general rule, if you're going to propose play, do it with all decision makers present.
Yeah.
And now I can imagine some scenarios where maybe you could justify an exception to this, but I think I can't imagine a scenario that it wouldn't be better to just do it in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And if everybody's not comfortable hearing that proposal, then you shouldn't make it in the first place.
Yeah.
Do it in front of the decision makers.
I agree.
Handle those, be direct in your communication, say no, and craft one response each.
That's
each of you,
direct.
That's direct and that you can memorize and commit to heart so that you can use it when you need to. That makes it easier. When you have it, it makes it easier to use it.
And deliver it with kindness.
Deliver it with kindness.
And then receive a no with kindness. Honor that person's no. Honor the fact that they are doing something that is incredibly difficult. So put yourself in their shoes because one day you probably will be. And don't get offended when somebody tells you no.
This is, maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but I have heard people come to me before and say, look, we proposed play to this couple and it's just really bothering us. We've been having great conversation. We've been flirting. And what really irks me is we're way better looking than them and they still told us no. All right. So that is usually a lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And there's so many red flags when somebody says something like that. But surprisingly, I've heard that kind of
We've
language
both heard that. Yeah.
Several times. First of all, you may not know, you may have
inflated
view
self.
of how good looking you are, but it doesn't matter. Even if I thought you were super good looking, she may not.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And we've seen some really good looking people that were just total asshats, and neither of us were attracted to them. So or
they could have been nice, and it just
for
still
us,
wasn't there.
it's not. It is for some people, but appearance is so superficial when it comes to sexual encounters with us. We are sapiosexuals. So are you interesting to talk to? Maybe you weren't interesting to talk to.
Yeah, no, that's not to say we don't like.
And maybe you're not as good looking as you think you are.
Maybe we're
to
not.
This person. Maybe we aren't. But to say, we're way better looking, this couple, and they told us no, well, maybe don't get offended.
Yeah,
maybe you need to do some work on yourself.
Yeah, that's a sign that you have some emotional growth to do before maybe proceeding with non-monogamy.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there's a million reasons somebody can tell you no that may have nothing to do with looks.
Absolutely. And may have nothing to do with you.
That's right.
It's not all about you and my balls. If you're listening to the podcast, I've got my lacrosse balls. Okay, so on the next episode, we're going to be discussing about how to close the deal, because I am really bad at closing. And we're going to talk about the consent talk that you should be having prior to every play session.
I would like to say I'm good at closing, but that's only because I'm swinging at softballs.
That's true. And also, I am really good at the consent talk.
Yes, yeah, and that it is important, and it can be very sexy too. It doesn't have to ruin the.
Yeah, it's a good way to initiate the play. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap this up. Remember to use your no, and to also never stop playing.